Welcome to the MemberWise Best Practice series. This video is brought to you today by the MemberWise Network, the leading free-to-join best practice network for membership and association professionals. We hope that you enjoy this great presentation, and for further information about our growing network, please visit www.memberwise.org.uk. So in terms of the key points for this session, we're going to be looking at online member engagement. In terms of the membership sector, this year, we reached a tipping point. So you've seen the Harnessing the Web report. You should hopefully all have copies of that. For the first time in 4 years, member engagement surpassed new member acquisition as one of our key challenges or goals. And that was something that was quite new. Now, Heather might talk to you about this as being, it's not statistically significant, but from my perspective, this is something that's changed, and that's why I think we've actually reached a bit of a tipping point this year. What also is quite strange about member engagement at the moment, I think as organisations, I think it's probably fair to say that we've got a variable understanding of exactly what it is. We know we want it, we know we need it, we know that it's a good thing, we know it's going to help with member retention, but actually when it comes down to actually making it happen, the specific actions that are required to do it, the specific measurements that are required in order to kind of measure it. So what we're going to hopefully talk to you today is introduce the concept that we've been looking at and give you some insight. If you look for a definition on the net, I mean, you can go on forever. I mean, some of them are good, some of them are bad. In terms of sector advice on member engagement, I think you'd probably agree with me, there's variable content out there. Some of it is pretty shocking, pretty basic. So I'll be talking to you as well about how we're going to hopefully attempt to change that. So for me, certainly when it comes to engagement, a really important element of the actual activity is to actually look at context. That's the biggest thing. So who's the audience? If that audience has got specific elements that they're interested in, I'm sure a number of you segment. That's obviously something that can help improve. You're talking to me about something that interests me specifically. Therefore, I'm more interested. Tell me more. I'll soak up more. I'll get more involved. I'll maybe even, if you've got the ability to cross and upsell online, I might even buy more stuff if you tell me about it. That there's something there about the who. The benefit in terms of engagement, I think that we're all pretty clear on that. The more deeply engaged our members are, my belief is the more loyal they will become. The more loyal they will become, the more likely they are to renew. The more likely they are to renew, that's going to improve in terms of your membership results and also what they're actually going to do. How can we do that? Well, in terms of, I've called this why really. Communicating clear outcomes is a really good way of helping to engage. And certainly it's one of the things that I keep banging on about. It's not the output, it's not the benefit, it's actually what it delivers. So if I give you some examples of that, in terms of what the outcome is, it makes me feel good, it saves me money, it makes me money, it saves me time, it improves my life balance. All those kind of things, if you can actually evidence those from an engagement perspective, ultimately say to your members, we can make things better, we can improve things. I think that that's really what can help when it comes to engaging. It's not just online, it's offline as well. There's various things that we can do to improve engagement. And certainly the organisations I talk to, the idea that you would ever take away, for example, for a number of professional bodies, you know, your journal, you'd take that completely out in terms of hard copy and just put it online. A lot of membership organisations, no. It's one of the few tangible benefits of membership. That's really important. There's something about timing as well. It's like if you're going to hit your members with information and advice and if you like a proposition, if you get the timing wrong, they'll probably have their ears closed. So actually thinking about it, just because you think it's a great benefit, you spent time on it, you've worked hard on it, you've worked with a lot of people, maybe some committees to make something happen, it needs to be actually promoted at the appropriate time. And there's various ways that we can kind of improve on how we do that. And also there's the how in terms of the kind of context. How do members search for things? You know, I think there's a real history of membership bodies. We've had stuff buried in our websites for years. You know, the idea of making things accessible, making them navigable, that there's something there that we need to make a little bit easier and straightforward. We've talked about segmenting. It might be quite interesting now just quickly to have a quick yes-no if that's okay. If the audience could, we'll just wait for it to come up on screen. Who here segments? Who segments? So 1 yes, 2 no, 3 abstain. If you could just vote quickly. Huh? I can't hear you.
What about maybe?
Well, I think you're either segmenting or you're not.
Well, we are in bits, but we aren't in others.
Okay. In terms of this question, it's going to be yes, no, and abstain because we can't change it now. Okay, moving swiftly on. And the result? 83% are. So obviously when it comes to that, obviously that's a good step in terms of the direction. So if we can just take that slide down and put the presentation deck back on, please, guys. And those are the different ways that we can segment. There's probably some different ways that you've got there, but I've just kind of noted down a few for you. One of the things that I've found has been a real issue for a number of organisations is just because you know it's there, don't assume your members know it's there also. And I'll give you some examples. I've worked for a number of membership bodies where just signposting them in a more targeted manner has made such a difference. You know, I went over to Northern Ireland with one particular membership body, sat with about 25 trainees. We put together a very quick and dirty top 20 trainee benefits, shared it with the room. Half the room didn't even know half the benefits were available. The other half advocated at how great they were. It took 10 minutes, so please do not assume that your members know. Also making sure that they're current and targeted. That's really, really useful. We've talked about timing, so I think it's the right solution to the right segment at the right time in the right place, possibly at the right price. So this will all help when it comes to actually making that proposition much more engaging. I would say personalise with care, though. I think that there's an element where there's a risk where we might actually go a little bit too far. Certainly if content's not timeless and we've not got the resource to kind of keep updating stuff, there's a need to be a little bit careful. But making that accessible on any device, anytime, anywhere. But please don't go mad. Next year, we're going to move into, I think Rob touched upon this, we're going to start we'll start to see more new challenger banks appear. In March, one particular bank will be entering the market. Why am I talking about this? Well, they're looking at engagement at a massive scale. Banks being engaged, more engaged with our banks. Let me give you an example. What they're going to be doing with the new kit that they've got, they will be looking, first of all, a number of them are going to set up with savings accounts, and for about 3%, they'll start enticing us in. They're actually going to be analysing what our spend is. They're going to be looking at the purchases that we make. So, for example, I might buy my broadband from BT, I might have my Sky. What they'll be doing is proactively pushing or promoting to us, well, you might want to look at Virgin. You might want an all-inclusive package. You can save £25 a month. They will be working with providers to make that happen. Some might think that's a little bit Big Brother, but this is going to start happening from next March. Their logic is the money that you save, you will invest with them. This is something that we've not gone anywhere near in terms of, if you like, engagement. There is something where I just think we need to be a little bit careful with this, certainly when it comes to online engagement. Finally, my 10 minutes, we're working on something called a member engagement toolkit. We have been pulling together all the information and advice that's needed to have a solid look at engagement, what it is, how we can do it, how we can improve it. And over the coming weeks and months, hopefully launching before the end of the year, we will be delivering the toolkit. It's going to be sponsored by Research by Design and ASI Europe, and because of that sponsorship, that will mean that it's widely available and completely free to access. So it'll be provided by the network. We'll be having models, we'll be looking at maturity, all kinds of different things. So it's just for me to say, the network will be providing more resource on this key topic, and please do watch this space. I'm now going to hand over to Kerry from the Law Society. If you'd like to come up and talk to us about what the Law Society is doing, Kerry.
Thank you, Rich. So this is my first slide, and I'm hoping that you'll look at it and recognise some of the challenges on that list, because I don't think they're individual to our organisation. I think there's a lot of people sitting here who recognise a lot of those challenges. Predominantly the CRM one, holding poor, incomplete and inaccurate data. I don't think that's a surprise. Benefits usage data, we don't keep it in CRM, it's kept in several other databases, so we can't see what benefits are being used by different members, so we don't have a single view of our member and what they're using. We don't currently tailor or personalise most of our communications. Everybody gets everything, just in case they want it. So we don't reach the right member with the right message, which is what Richard was talking about. And we don't currently monitor or evaluate member engagement, so we have no idea how engaged our membership is right now as a snapshot. So what I've said at the bottom here, a little tip for you, and by the way, I've created a handout, so when Rich sends out the slides after this event, there's a very short handout that I've prepared which kind of talks a little bit more in depth about how we went through our journey and some tips. But my tip here is, and this is obviously the easy bit, start with what you know doesn't work. That's probably a good couple of hours worth sitting there and saying, well, this and this and this and this and this. But actually it's really important to establish what the challenges are. Our organisation didn't always face what those challenges were. They were perhaps naive. I'm using the word nicely, naive in what they thought the situation was. Actually, sometimes I think as membership professionals, our job is to break the bad news and the reality of the situation so that you can move forward from it. So I would say start with what you know doesn't work, start with the challenges, because actually your member engagement strategy has to fix those things. So if you don't know what's broken, you can't fix it. So start with that. So this is our vision, this is where we want to get to, and this is what I think you have to start with. Once you've established what isn't working, start with what's your vision. How are you going to know when you've achieved it? Because actually we talk about, we think we know what we want. Well, actually, if you could get in a time machine and go forward 5 years in time or whatever, what is it going to look like? How are you going to know it's working? So we created this, which is a vision statement. It's quite loose. There's ways of getting there, but actually that's the end point. It's the output, it's the outcomes that we want to achieve. We want up-to-date data in CRM. We want to be able to segment meaningfully. We want to be able to score engagement so that we can measure it. We want to understand our needs, not what we think they need. We need to know what they really need and how they change. We want a consistently leaner offering of our membership offer. We have over 500 different products and services. Don't think we probably need that many, so less is more. We want to target our marketing so that we get some return on investment, and we want to track and evaluate how people use the benefits. If people aren't using them, maybe it's about getting rid of them. So my tip here is about starting with that vision, articulating it, and being as specific as possible, because that's how you're going to work backwards to identify how you're going to get to that vision. This is our vision for 2020, so when we wrote it originally, we had 5 years, now we've got 4, and it's ever looking more increasing like a sort of, oh my God, we've only got 4 years now. But it's a starting point. So stage 1, there's about 8 or 9 stages, I think it's about 8 at the moment. Stage 1 was about segmentation. We have 170,000 members, and if you know solicitors at all, they do lots of different things. Some of them run businesses, some of them practice the law, some of them work in-house, some of them work for law firms. They're a hugely diverse group of people, and they will not fit in nice little boxes. I've tried sticking them in little boxes, and they don't like it. So we had to come up with a segmentation model that meant that we could identify the key characteristics of how diverse they were, that we could query CRM to find them, because actually the membership team are the ones who say, but I only want to talk to this little group of people over here, and if you can't find them in CRM, then I'm just going to blanket everybody. We needed to audit our benefits package, so start to map all the different things that we offered to those segments so that we could see where are there massive gaps and where are there overlaps. We had 60 books for property law, none for intellectual property. Great if you're a property lawyer, but not so great if you're an intellectual property lawyer. So we didn't know that until we'd done this audit exercise, so it's really useful. Then we can tailor our marketing and comms activity. We can get really niche, or we can pick a broader segment. And we can start running reports on trends and statistics using consistent data, because the segmentation model is about the whole organisation using it to segment, not just one team, it's everybody. So as a result, we created 5 employer segments, because for us it's about who they work for. So it's the sector, the size, the region, both internationally and the UK, and how far that region reaches. And then for the individual, we had 4, so the role and responsibilities that they have as part of an employee, their job title, the level that they're at in their career, and the practice areas, so the areas of law that they specialise in. Quite simple things, these are not hugely, shouldn't be coming out of nowhere, but we had no idea at what stage our members were at in their career. We had no job titles on CRM. That's not great for 170,000 people. It's really not useful to be able to say, well, you're a solicitor, you have this. So that was a really big step forward for us. So that's stage 1, that took place last year. Stage 2 is the nightmare that is this year. Member data, so changing the CRM system to reflect the segmentation model, so that all the model has a field in CRM so that you can query. Auditing the existing data, what's missing? Everything. Good, okay, at least we know where we are. What's inaccurate, what's up to date? We have a feed from our regulator that pushes data into our database, but it dates the minute we get it. So we're never quite sure whether it's up to date or not, but it's the only thing we've got, so we use it. We had data sitting in about 17 different databases, so nothing was coming into CRM to give you that single member, so it was about how do we integrate all that data. And then how do you identify the gaps? You know, how are you going to fill them? So we created a member portal so members could log on and give us that information. But also, you know, I'm a big fan of being proactive. You can't wait for members to come to you. Maybe it's about ringing them up and doing a bit of, you know, a key account management and asking them for that information directly. And in fact, I went to the board and said, how are we going to convince our members to give us this data? You know, should we be giving away free iPads? Should we be giving some sort of incentive? You know, I was expecting them to say, you know, yeah, you're really going to have to make them do it. And interestingly, membership board said, just be honest. Just say, you members have told us we're not relevant. Okay, in order to be relevant, you need to tell us who you are. So here you go, here's a form. And actually, that honesty worked really well because it makes you look in a good light like you're trying to fix the problems. So we didn't have to come up with a scheme to get them to fill that data in. They're doing it because they can see the reasons why. So here's my tip. Nothing you recommend in terms of engagement is going to work unless you're measuring it. What's that saying about if you measure it, it gets done? You need to measure it. And the most useful place to put it is CRM because you're tracking activities, you're tracking things, and therefore you need to have one place where it all comes together. And CRM is, you know, the most useful place to put all that. So I would say you've got to try and measure it, and that's where the data comes in. So that's why very early on, stage 2 is all about data. Businesses can't make business decisions without data, so it needs to be there. And here's a very quick and easy guide to stages 3 to 8, which is what we're going to be doing in the next couple of years. So stage 3 was all about engagement scoring. We want to develop something that's dynamic, that's based on the data in CRM, that constantly spits out a score so that all our members have a score. Stage 4 is about using research, doing a lot more research to understand our members' needs and their challenges per segment so that we can really start to develop an offer that actually meets their needs. Stage 5 is a really good point at which to say, right, stop. Look at what you've done in 1, 2, 3 and 4. How's it going? What are your problems? Are you behind? Would you change anything for 6, 7 and 8? Because as people have already said this morning in their presentations, you should be learning as you go. And I mean, the problem with setting a 2020 strategy is a lot can happen in 5 years. Also, the reverse is true. Not a lot can happen in 5 years. So actually, you might want to speed up and slow down, and you need to be constantly evaluating that. So 5 is a point at which you can go, right, stop, evaluate, how are you going to put together all what you've learned and move forward. Stage 6 was about saying, well, if you've scored everybody's got a score, how are you going to move people from level 1 to level 10? Because actually, that's all you can do. You can't skip all those stages and get somebody who follows you on Twitter to sit on a committee. I mean, good luck with that. They're not going to, you know, they haven't gone through all that stage of engagement with you. So it's about taking people from 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, because suddenly that's more doable. 7 is a big one for us. We don't like saying, stop. Stop doing it. It's not working. We flog those horses beyond dead. They just, I mean, it's ridiculous. But it's very, very hard to say no, especially if you've invested millions of pounds in something. I mean, millions. And then, you know, somebody says, it's not working, stop. That was a really brave thing for our CEO to say, actually, and got a lot of stick for it. But somebody had to say stop. And she did, and it's now going to save money because you're not throwing good money after bad. So this is a key one. Evaluation, stop, 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 then think about what you're going to start doing. And create business cases for why you're going to start doing them. Private sector are used to doing this, we're not used to doing it. And then stage 8. This is the final bit because it's kind of the cherry on the cake. Once you've done all that, you can really start to create some tailored and personalised marketing and comms plans for each segment because you know who they are, you know what they want, you know the offer that's going to meet them, and you can easily communicate it because you can find them in CRM. It should be simple. Simples, as the meerkats would say. Right, that's our journey. Wish me luck. I'll come back next year and tell you how you're getting on. Now over to Heather.
Measuring member engagement, what a challenge. 75% of member organisations in the Harnessing the Web survey earlier on this year said that they have an inability to measure member engagement. And consequently, as a research company, we've been asked by very many of our clients to help them with this task. So what I wanted to do over the next few minutes really is to share with you the thinking and the research that we've done around member engagement, to share with you how we've defined it, how we've modelled it, how we use member surveys to measure it, and how we're helping organisations segment their members, giving them the data that they need to more effectively target their products, services and communications to their members. So our work in member engagement has really been stimulated by the CRM providers who talk much about collecting behavioural data and sifting through this data, selecting the key discriminators, weighting them, and then generating a member engagement score. However, market research tells us that a relationship between a member and an organisation really isn't just about courses they attend or the frequency with which they visit the website. These brands aren't built on simply the number of interactions or purchases that have been made by their consumers. What these brands have sought to do is to differentiate themselves from their competitors by connecting with their consumers in a more emotional way. They seek to make consumers feel good about when they engage and how they use the brand. So back to our iceberg. It is an iceberg, if you hadn't worked that out. I had to put a boat on just to emphasise the point. Back to our iceberg. It's important for us to add to our thinking the feelings and emotions for member engagement. It's important for us to consider what members are motivated by beyond the simple transaction. So we've developed a model, a four-component model, and this has come very much out of the literature reviews that we've been doing on consumer and employee engagement. There's a lot that's written in the market about consumer employee engagement, but it hasn't transcended into the membership sector until now. So taking those four elements, behavioural, which really looks to understand levels of activity and effort invested by members. Cognitive is around perceptions, awareness, understanding of members. Emotional is about feelings, and social is about connections. So I'll come back to those in a bit more detail. But using those, what we've done is put together a definition for member engagement. Now this, I'm not going to go through this word by word, it's really quite lengthy, but I would like to break it down into a few parts to help you understand why we've put so many words in there. The first element is our behavioural components, and that's our activity, our member involvement in interactions. Another part is our cognitive components, members being aware and getting the bigger picture. Now we know from research where we've talked across the spectrum from disengaged to engaged members, our most engaged members are those who just get it. They understand what the organisation's trying to achieve. So I think that's a really important element. Our emotional feelings about having deep and meaningful relationships and being passionate and proud to be associated with the organisation. Really important again. And, oh, I clicked that twice, so I hope we don't move on too quickly. And our social components are, as I say, our connection and being part of the community. So a long definition, you can see how we've built that up. Well, what's important, and we're adding to that for a moment, is to give a purpose. And the purpose, of course, ultimately is to drive renewals, upgrade decisions, and advocacy. And it has to be sustainable. It has to, member engagement has to endure over time. So using the model as we have, we're able to set questions against each of those measures. So behavioural really is kind of speaks for itself. We can ask members through surveys, even through the CRM system, about visits to websites, attendance at training courses, all sorts of things. If we look at cognitive, we can ask members about their perceptions of the organisation. Emotional, how proud are they? To what extent does the organisation contribute to their professional life? Social, do they have a sense of belonging to the community? Are they really connecting with it? With all that data, what we can do is we can segment it. Now, what I've been talking about is 4 different characteristics. I can't present a 4-dimensional matrix to you today, so I've consolidated that and made that 2-dimensional. So along the bottom, we've got our behavioural interactions, our engagement, and along the vertical, we've got cognitive, emotional, and social engagement. Now, what we've got there, I've just named the 4 quadrants just for ease of reference. Our stars, top right-hand corner. They're the members we all want. They're interacting with you regularly, and they've got a strong emotional connection. They are your real advocates. They are the people that will be sitting on the committees and really working for you. Supporters are advocates too, but they're not quite interacting with you in the same way. Consumers, lots of behaviour interaction. Now, often in our research, we see these as students. They're people that are coming into the learning aids for professional associations. They're using the learning aids, but they're not going much beyond that. They haven't yet bonded and got that emotional connection. And detractors, well, one wonders what value for money they're getting out of their membership. Low emotional engagement, if any, and really not using the services that are being provided. So with that segmentation, we can then develop a marketing strategy, a marketing engagement strategy, and from that, we can determine how we want to move members. We ultimately want to move them, ideally, to stars. So we can start to think about our students, perhaps, if they are in that consumer sector, and how do we get emotional engagement? So we can start developing products, services, communications that are really targeted at those individuals. I hope that's been useful. I've gone through it very quickly. The definition and the models are up on our website, on the Research by Design website, so please feel free to pull those down, and we've incorporated that work in the toolkit too.
So hopefully that session has provided you with maybe a different way to look at engagement. Certainly in the past, we've built variable versions of what it is, what it isn't, how to measure it, how not to measure it. Hey, if we count all of our likes, that's the way to do it. No, it's not. It needs a much deeper approach, and that's what the network's going to be doing with Research by Design and ASI. We're currently going through the QA process of that toolkit. It's about a 20-page long document, so it's not on the back of a fag packet. I promise you, it's taken a lot of time to put together. If you, as a membership professional, would like to engage with that, please come and either see myself, Heather, or Kerry, and we'll get you involved in the process, because this really needs to be driven from the sector, by the sector. It's as simple as that. Equally, as I said to you before, the Society of Association Membership Professionals, please do speak to our steering group members during the break. So we've got a half an hour break now. There should be some coffee, tea, juice, cakes outside. And thank you for listening to our interpretation and the future of member engagement.